to today's new family orientation session. Before we begin, we have a few important housekeeping notes to cover.
La traducción al español para esta sesión es proporcionada por Wordly, una herramienta de traducción en tiempo real. Para acceder a este contenido en español, haga clic en el icono del globo en la barra de herramientas del lado derecho de la pantalla y seleccione Español en la lista de opciones de traducción.
Today's session is being recorded. Recordings will be available approximately 3 hours after the session ends. You can find session recordings in your session schedule or in the on-demand page of the Hub. To ask questions during this session, click on the Q&A button in the panel to the right of your screen. We'll answer as many questions as we can, either during the session or at the end. You can submit questions anonymously. Please don't share any personal information in questions, as questions will be visible to all guests. If you see a question in the Q&A panel that you want to see answered, upvote it to let our team know. Lastly, we ask that you please join us in upholding and promoting UC San Diego's principles of community, and in keeping our community free from any and all forms of discrimination and harassment. Now let's get started with today's new family orientation session.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Tiffany O'Mara. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a psychologist and the Director of Outreach Services at Counseling and Psychological Services, otherwise known as CAPS. I have been working here. This is my 24th year going to be working at CAPS. I also have worked at USC and UCLA. And besides doing outreach and providing workshops like this, one of my favorite parts of my job is doing group therapy for students that have anxiety and social anxiety. And I'm here today with Dr. Allie Wagner.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Allie Wagner. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a psychologist at Counseling and Psychological Services, aka CAPS, and I coordinate our eating disorder treatment services on campus. I've been here for about 3 years now. I've worked in a lot of different settings. I've worked at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I've worked in different hospital settings for folks with eating disorders. I've also worked in different trauma settings. And I'm excited to be here with you all today.
And so welcome to Letting Go While Holding On. I hope that our time today allows you to reflect on all of the parenting stages that you've gone through over the years. In each of those stages, you have already practiced this, the art of holding on to your child, as you have also been gradually letting them go. From that first day at kindergarten, you've been helping your child prepare for this moment right now. And this stage you are faced with now may feel especially challenging as you work to find that balance of, how do I stay connected while also supporting them and allowing them to develop their independence. And one thing that I think is important to remember is that you've already been doing this all along. All right, next slide. So in the first part of the presentation, we're going to tell you about our services. So although students do receive this information in various orientation programs that they attend, it can be helpful for parents to know this information as well. Some students may not think about attending counseling services, and it's often a parent who will be the first person to help reduce stigma and normalize that it's okay to seek support. It's during this opening section where we're discussing CAPS services that this would be a great time to ask any questions that you have. We've got an amazing colleague behind the scenes, Jay Ashby, who will be answering your questions. And if your question doesn't get answered right away, it may be because we're waiting to cover that topic later in the presentation, or Jay thinks that it would be better answered live at the end of the presentation. And then during the next part of the presentation, we're going to be discussing what to expect during this transition to college and how you can offer support while still staying connected with your child. We won't be answering questions during this part of the presentation. However, Ali and I will be happy to take questions again at the end of the presentation. Next slide. The National College Health Assessment assesses college students from across the country every 2 years. So these are the results from the UCSD Spring 2023 assessment, and that's because the 2025 results aren't out yet. But at that time, these were the top 10 factors that UCSD students report negatively impact their academic performance. And then we also share how that compares to how they responded in 2021 when we were still in the midst of the pandemic. So go ahead and take a moment to read over this slide. Some things that you might notice. One is that procrastination is the highest reported barrier to academic performance. And these percentages for procrastination, sleep, stress, anxiety have all decreased from 2021. So that's some good news. These numbers in 2023 are much closer to what we saw in 2019 pre-pandemic. So in 2019, stress was 39%, anxiety 27%, sleep difficulties were 24%, and depression was 22%. So very similar to this most recent survey in 2023. Interestingly, in 2019, internet and gaming was the 6th highest concern, with 15% of students reporting it as a barrier to academic performance. For some reason, they don't ask this question. This topic is no longer an option for students to select, but my guess is that if it was an option to select, that would still be a big factor that impacts academic performance. All right, next slide. So students come in to see us at the Counseling Center for a variety of reasons. Here on the slide are a few examples of why students seek CAPS services. And we really want to emphasize that no problem is too big or too small. So, take a moment to read over this here. We have a lot of different support services for these concerns. So we have individual counseling, we have psychiatry, we have group therapy, we have drop-in workshops that help with skill development. So many different ways that we provide support, and Ali will go over those with you. Next slide.
Yes. So we at CAPS are the department on campus that provides mental health support and counseling to students. And our team, some of whom are pictured here on this slide, we're made up of licensed clinical social workers, licensed marriage and family therapists, professional clinical counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, postdoctoral residents. So we really run the gamut. And our staff are culturally diverse with a wide range of identities. And as Tiffany was saying, we really offer a myriad of services. We offer in-person and telehealth appointments. Our clinical services include individual counseling, where a student would meet one-on-one with a counselor. We provide brief individual counseling with a limited number of sessions based on the student's specific clinical need. Most students find that 3 to 6 sessions are helpful and they're able to make progress during that time. If counseling beyond that brief model is recommended, we would discuss various options with the student, which might include referral for off-campus services. Another service we offer is group counseling. I know that can sound scary, but Tiffany and I are both fans of group counseling here because some problems really are just better addressed together in a group. And so we have several groups in which students get the unique opportunity to meet weekly with a CAPS staff member and get support from other students who are having similar experiences. Examples might include groups on how to build social confidence, improve relationships, manage anxiety. Some students might also be referred for medication treatment with one of our psychiatrists. We're also constantly expanding our services, so we're starting to offer testing services that can help determine specific diagnoses, as well as services for students with more severe mental health needs. Our comprehensive immersive care program, also called the CIC, is designed to help students who are experiencing a crisis so that they can receive help before that concern escalates and becomes an emergency. Students in that program receive an individual plan that includes individual counseling, skills-based groups, weekly community activities, and lots of digital resources like popular mindfulness apps like Headspace. Our services are all free for undergraduate, graduate, and professional students who've paid their student service fees. This means that you don't have to pay for any appointments at CAPS. We're also a confidential service, meaning that we don't share information that you share with us, except for extreme situations that we would talk about with the student. We also offer services in various languages in addition to English. Next slide. If a student is experiencing an urgent need or crisis and needs to consult with a mental health provider immediately, they can actually call CAPS and request to speak with a counselor over the phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including evenings, weekends, and holidays. If you have a concern about your student, you're also welcome to call CAPS and consult with one of our providers. We're not able to disclose whether or not your student is a client with CAPS, but unless the student signs a form. However, we can always listen to your concerns and help point you in the right direction for campus resources, such as the college dean who might be able to assist you. Next slide, please.
All right, so far we've been talking about our clinical services, but I want to move into sharing a little bit more about our preventative outreach services. So next slide, please. All right, so this slide is an example of our skill building workshops that we provide. These are examples of some of the topics that we provided this past spring quarter. So we took some of the top reasons why students were coming into CAPS, and we developed workshops to help address those concerns and help give them some skills so that they can build resilience and learn how to manage their stress and improve emotional coping, and hopefully build those skills before a problem develops. And so the great thing about these workshops is that they're free for students. There's no wait for these services, and we offer a program every single day of the quarter. It's also a great way for students to meet other students because you're in a workshop, but you're engaged in activities. Next slide. So this slide shows you a picture of some of those activities. So what's really cool is that we've taken a lot of our performance and positive psychology content and combined it with activities. So the students are engaged in these really fun activities, but they're also learning skills to take care of themselves. So we kind of slide in that education. So they do things like paddleboard yoga, go on a hike with other students, take advantage of our challenge course while they're learning some of these tools and skills. And again, all of that is free for students. We'll be posting our RISE workshop schedule as we get closer to the fall schedule. All right, and the next slide is our CAPS Community Connections, and these are support spaces where students can meet other students who might share similar experiences and can talk with them, get support from them, and these programs are open to all of our students. Next slide. One thing that's really cool is that by attending any 12, either the RISE workshops and or the community connection spaces within one academic year, students will be able to receive an official well-being certificate on their co-curricular record. So the co-curricular record is CCR. This is an official record that highlights student achievements beyond the classroom. And so these activities are officially validated by the university, and it gets displayed alongside their academic achievements on their transcript. So that's pretty cool. So this is a great opportunity for students to showcase their commitment to development and self-growth. Next slide. All right, so another thing that's really cool is we've got free Headspace. And so we have a program called iFlourish, which is a lot of different tech offerings that we offer for students. And our most popular one is Headspace, which is a popular mindfulness app that teaches students how to meditate in their everyday life. And CAPS offers all of the features of Headspace Plus at no cost to UC San Diego students. So incoming students have to wait until they actually start the fall quarter before they're eligible for this. But once they do start the fall quarter, they should sign up through this iFlourish link. So take a picture of this slide and let students know, don't sign up through their app on their phone. They should instead go to this website to sign up for it because this membership will unlock hundreds of meditation and exercises for sleep, anxiety, focus, and fitness. And new, they even have like an AI component where they can talk, about a concern or a problem they have, and the AI will interact with them and provide support. So that's pretty cool. The other thing that's new is that students are able to gift a Headspace membership to up to 5 friends and family members that are outside of UCSD. So if you want your own free Headspace membership, you can encourage your student to sign up for it and then say, hey, can you gift that to me, please? So it's another great offering that we offer. As long as your student is here as a student, then you get that Headspace for free as well. All right, next slide.
Okay, so we've reviewed a lot of different services, and you might be wondering, well, how does my student get involved with some of this? Really, the first step in connecting with CAPS is to call us using the phone number on this slide. So take a picture, bookmark it, remember the phone number. From there, they're going to be scheduled for a brief telephone screening. And during that, usually like 15 to 20-minute phone call, a CAPS counselor is going to confidentially assess what your students' needs are and help them find the right resources for their concerns. And there are a lot of different treatment recommendations that we might make. Some students might be referred to meet with an individual counselor. For others, group counseling or a skill building workshop might be the best fit. And that can be combined with resources for those RISE workshops, community forums, and other iFlourish online resources that Tiffany was just talking about. Because individual counseling with CAPS is focused on specific goals and isn't really ongoing long-term therapy, students who would prefer or need more frequent sessions, ongoing counseling, or some form of specialized counseling might be referred off campus using the SHIP insurance or their private health insurance. In those cases, we help provide step-by-step guidance on that referral process. And if the student has SHIP, then the CAPS clinician who they met with will be able to write that referral to authorize off-campus care. If the student has private insurance, for instance, let's say they're on your insurance, I recommend looking into the availability of mental health services through that insurance now, before school starts. Look to see what their options are. Do they provide virtual or in-person counseling? What are the co-pays? What are the locations of the different providers? You might not think that the student will need to use those off-campus counseling services, but you honestly just don't know. It's a good idea to provide that information to your student now so that they can then independently access that resource if they need to down the road. Providing that information with them ahead of time can also help normalize reaching out for help and send the message that you support your student reaching out for mental health care. All right, next slide.
All right, so we're going to be moving on to the next portion of our program, and we'd like to share an audio clip with you that documents one parent's experience of bringing her child to college. You might want to turn up the volume on your computer because sometimes when we switch to the audio, it can be a little bit light. All right, Margot, we're all set to play the audio.
In the fall of 1982, when my firstborn boarded the school bus in first grade, I dissolved into tears. My husband looked on in total bewilderment. It's the beginning of the end, I sobbed. Today, first grade, tomorrow, college. No, he said, tomorrow he will still be in first grade. We've got 12 years to go. This week, Charlie left for college, and my husband was wrong. It was just yesterday that he got on the bus in first grade. The years, it seems, have flown by. We have had some slow times, of course, these last 18 years, particularly the first 5. In those days, it would sometimes take me an hour and a half to get 2 kids dressed out the door and in the car seats. I can remember getting the last boot on foot number 4 and realized that in the meantime, foot number 1 had removed its boot. Life was structured then. Looking back, I'm not sure if I believed it would ever end. I knew it in my head, but never in my gut. All this summer, I've tried to picture myself driving Charlie to college. I could see the 4 of us chugging up I-95, but the image ends there. I could never picture the 3 of us coming back without him. It's not like we weren't preparing all year long. Charlie's senior year was a constant reminder of his imminent departure. Campus visits, the SATs, application deadlines, essays, interviews, mood swings, and waiting, endless waiting. Last fall, I set out thinking I would be wise, supportive, and calm, and that I would learn a lot to pass on to friends with younger children. Well, here's what I learned. The whole experience is hard on everybody. It takes over the entire family psyche, and in the end, you have to say goodbye, ready or not. We managed to survive the school year and headed towards summer, knowing that we were facing issues centered around our son's need for independence and the need to separate as painlessly as possible. I, of course, wanted everyone to be cozy and together, and was silently horrified that neither one of our children chose to spend much time with us this summer. The times we were a foursome were generally tense. Charlie fought with his father over the smallest things. He guarded his privacy with a newfound vigilance. He ignored me and tormented his younger brother a little less, which paradoxically was somewhat of a loss for his brother, who says, "I don't miss him, I miss the idea of him." He was checking out, and to me it felt too slow and too fast all at once. And frankly, I feel gypped. I feel like I'm being handed early retirement from a job I liked. Why are there countless books on childbirth, breastfeeding, child development, and a dearth of material on letting go?
All right. That audio clip can often bring up a lot of emotion. You may feel like Charlie's mom, that seeing your child off to college is the end of an era. Whether this is your first child leaving home or your fourth, this can be a difficult and emotional transition for the whole family. Next slide. Last year, I was in the same boat that you are all in right now. This time last year, my husband and I were preparing to move our son to college in Northern California. Here we are on a family vacation last July. I've been doing this presentation since 2002, since before I had a child. And then once I had a child, I always imagined that I'd be in tears sending my child to college. So I was surprised that our experience has been much more like Charlie's mom in the audio clip. My husband and I have talked about what made it feel hurtful at times were the expectations that we had, that we expected to have these close family experiences the summer before he left for college, and the reality didn't match our expectations. So last year we talked about, how could it be helpful for us to adjust our expectations? I just want you to know that if you're having the experience of your child pulling away, you are not alone. This is a natural phenomenon called soiling the nest, not a great term, but any moodiness, angry outbursts, or disrespectful and defiant behavior can help the parent and child to make the transition of leaving home a little bit easier. It means that they have naturally outgrown the nest, which is actually a good thing. So some parents may have mixed feelings, both relief of their child finally leaving the nest, while at the same time feeling sad about the inevitable fact that our little birds are leaving. And every child's different. So some children can't wait to leave and be on their own, and you may rarely hear from them, while others may feel homesick, might call you daily, and may try to come home every weekend. And there's no right or wrong. Every child is different. And I would like to update you that I have some good news, that after his first year in college, he's returned to us and things feel much better. He had a wonderful first year in college, and we find that he's less moody, kinder, more engaged in conversation, and interested in things like learning how to cook. So many people told us that it would be better, but I remember feeling at the time uncertain that it ever would. But we've been pleasantly surprised. So if you're having a similar experience to me and Charlie's mom, I just want you to know that there is hope. All right, next slide.
Yes, as Tiffany is describing, it is so common during this time for families to have mixed feelings about their child starting college. So if you are feeling both sad to see them go and also a little relieved that they're finally out of the house, there is nothing wrong with that. It's totally normal. It's a complicated time. You are redefining your role in your child's life in order to provide both support and independence. And that shift from the parent-child relationship to the parent-young adult relationship is different for every family. But knowing the common challenges that might be ahead for you can also help provide some reassurance and allow you to prepare. Next slide. One of the biggest challenges of this role shift is finding that you might be a little less needed on a day-to-day basis. Many students are already pretty independent by their senior year. They may already be spending most of their time with their friends or in their room, but once college starts, they're really stepping into adulthood and becoming more and more self-reliant. And it can be anxiety-provoking for parents to not know that their child is doing, for them to not know what their child is doing on a regular basis and to feel that they no longer need you in that same way that they used to. And if your child is not as self-reliant or independent as you think they should be, this can also cause anxiety. Being flexible, available, and communicating that willingness to support your student if needed, and communicating that right alongside that, you trust your child to problem solve on their own and manage day-to-day situations without you is important. I know some students who text their parents multiple times every day and have regular video chats. I also know some students who talk to their parents every 2 to 3 weeks. It really varies so much, and every young person is on their own unique path. And so the challenge for families during this time is to learn to tolerate that uncertainty and trust that they have adequately prepared for this next stage of life. Next slide. Your child is going to be working on some major developmental tasks in those first few years in college. In addition to learning how to handle all the day-to-day activities of life independently, they're also going to be developing their emotional independence. They're going to be learning to manage their emotions, cope with problems without having all of the reassurance and approval that they might be used to having at home. We recommend that families and supporters try to be supportive of their students making decisions independently and try to avoid sending mixed messages that might set up a conflict between loyalties. For instance, sometimes saying to the student, you should be coming home more, you should be coming home every weekend, and other times saying to the student, you really need to be more independent. That's sort of a conflicting message. But most importantly, allow your student room to make mistakes, because making mistakes is actually a crucial part of growth and learning. Next slide.
All right, as Ali mentioned, some students will want to have daily contact and some won't want to be in touch that often. So it can be difficult for parents to adjust to not having as much contact as we're used to not seeing them on a daily basis. And the challenge for some will be, how do I stay connected despite not having as much time with them as you used to? It can be helpful to practice patience, grace, and flexibility with both them and yourself. And it can also help to try to keep a sense of humor during this difficult process. I remember one mother who her son was not returning her calls. So she wrote him a card, a physical card in the mail that said, I miss you. We used to see each other every day and I miss talking with you and knowing what's going on in your life. I'm going to include a check for $100 for you to spend on whatever you like, but please just, check in and call and let me know how you're doing. Let me know that you're okay. And she sent the card without a check and she got a call right away. So that was one parent's strategy. All right, next slide. During this portion of the presentation, when we used to do this presentation in person, we would have parents pair up with other parents to discuss, what are your greatest fears and what are your greatest hopes as your child comes to college. Since we can't have those conversations in person, we'd like you to take just a few moments right now and think about, what is one of your greatest wishes as your child starts college? So please go ahead and take a moment to reflect on this. And you may even write down that hope and dream. So if you have a piece of paper nearby or maybe even on your phone, so take a moment and think, what is one hope or dream that I have for them? And you may even consider writing them a letter and sharing that hope or dream for them. Over the years, we've heard parents say things like, they hope that their child finds their passion and what area of study is most interesting for them. They hope they develop lifelong friendships. They hope they become well-rounded and don't just focus on academics, which is, I think, a real concern at UCSD sometimes. They hope that they learn to problem solve and become more independent. They hope they grow to be an empathic and caring person who contributes to their community. And of course, they hope that they actually do their laundry. So, maybe reflect on what is one of your hopes or dreams for them. Next slide. And here's a little humor here. Here is a little cartoon that some of you may relate to. In the photo on the left, the mom is trying to pull her child off the tree and get them to start the first day of kindergarten. And then on the right, how the roles can reverse. And now the mom is trying to hold onto her child and doesn't want them to leave for college. All right, so next slide. So now we're going to move into sharing with you some common challenges for students as they transition to college. Next slide. All right, so Allie, I am unable to see anymore the presentation. I can see what slide I'm on, but I can't see the presentation. And so just let me know if I get off the slides. All right.
I gotcha.
All right. So when my daughter Sedona was about 6 or 7 years old, she placed signs around the house that read, "Sedona wants to be boss." And one day I walked by her room and she had her door closed, which was very strange. And I knocked and I asked if I could come in. She said, I could. And she was engaged in an arts and crafts project in which she was making signs to hang on her door, little door signs that said, "Sedona's room, private." So she was really going through a stage where she wanted to be more independent and do everything by herself. She really had a strong desire to be independent and to make her own rules. She wanted to be the boss, BOUS. But when I gave her some space, it turned out that at the end of the day, she still needed me after all. And this pull between wanting independence, but still wanting support is a part of what your child may experience. Your child is developing increased autonomy and self-reliance. They want to be the boss. And this is a natural part of their transitional development at this age, separating from parents and family and individuation, becoming more independent. So for some, this may mean learning how to do their laundry for the first time, or taking care of themselves when they aren't feeling well, and even having to schedule their own doctor's appointments. They might not be used to knowing how to do that. And they may need to establish an identity in a new environment. And this may be tough for some. Some may be used to, being the valedictorian or the homecoming queen. And this may be an adjustment from being a big fish in a small pond to now maybe feeling like a small fish in a big pond. For others, this may really be an opportunity to be who they want to be. So for example, for some, they may feel like they're more free to explore their sexual orientation, or to really live in their true gender identity. So they're going to be leaving behind well-known people, places, pets, and routines. And they may have had a lot of structure around their daily routine with parents or teachers keeping them accountable. And now they don't have as much structure and they have to be accountable for themselves. Another thing that may be difficult is being away from home during important events such as birthdays, holidays, celebrations, or even when a family member or a pet might be ill. So all of those things might be difficult for them. Next slide. It's also common for students to experience common academic challenges for the first time. So for example, for myself, I was a straight A student in high school, and then I went to UC Irvine and I got my first C. I had never ever seen a C on my transcript, and I got my first C in Intro to Psychology, but somehow it still ended up working out okay. And students have to adjust to that. Students may also be trying to negotiate parents' expectations. Sometimes the students get to the point and they realize, oh gosh, I probably won't likely be able to go to medical school after all. Or maybe they realize that they want to pursue a major that's different than one that their parent hopes for them. So we just want to, suggest that you be mindful of how you express your expectations of them, because that can be hard for them. Next slide.
Okay. It's pretty common on top of those challenges that Tiffany discussed. It's pretty common for students to also experience some social challenges when they first start college. In the fall quarter, especially, we have many students seeking counseling support relating to managing social stress. Stress related to leaving old friends behind. The stress of needing to build a new social group here at school. They may struggle with feelings of loneliness or maybe feel anxious about meeting new people. They may also be getting involved in romantic relationships for the very first time. Living away from home for the first time, of course, can be challenging. Living in the dorms and having to share a room and space for the first time can be particularly hard, especially for students who grew up having their own room. On the other hand, students who are used to living in homes with large extended families might find themselves feeling kind of lonely or isolated with not as many people around. Another aspect that can be difficult is navigating social environments that are challenging, where they're having different or they're coming into contact with others who have different or conflicting viewpoints. They might be faced with managing conflict for the first time or challenged to hear multiple perspectives that differ from their own. And all of these things can take time to adjust. Next slide.
All right. Ali mentioned love. Your child may have the experience of falling in love for the first time, or perhaps they are trying to manage a long-distance relationship for the first time. Some may be falling out of love for the first time. There's a phenomenon known as the turkey drop, and this is when a child starts college in a long-distance relationship, but then once they arrive to college, they're having fun, meeting new people, and they decide maybe they don't want to be in a relationship anymore. And so when they come home for the first holiday, which is Thanksgiving, they break up with that hometown relationship. So that's affectionately called the turkey drop around Thanksgiving. Not a very nice term, but in all seriousness, experiencing a first breakup, if you remember your first breakup, that can be really hard. And as we mentioned earlier, some may be coming out about their sexual or gender identity, and that can feel freeing. And at the same time, it might also be challenging to come out to friends and family. Also, students may struggle with getting some of the same grades that they're used to. This can be frustrating and disappointing, and it can also be challenging to manage time. Many are used to having a lot of structure in high school, and when they start college, they can be surprised by how much free time they have, but that can actually be challenging because it's up to them to structure their time and prioritize tasks, and this might be new to some of them, and they can struggle with procrastination. Next slide. So we find that students do benefit from parent support. So how can parents provide support while still allowing their child to become independent? So we're going to provide a few suggestions here for how to still hold on while letting go. All right, so next slide. Regarding how often to stay in touch. We suggest asking them about how much they would like to be in contact. When would be a good time for them to check in? How would they like to stay connected? Is it through email, calls, texts, messaging? Some students may want to be in touch daily, and others maybe once a week. So allow them to set the pace. Some students prefer text so that they can get back to you when the time is best for them, versus feeling the need to pick up the phone when maybe it's not a good time, like for example, early in the morning. Or you might talk with them and decide on, okay, what are the days and times that we're going to talk each week? For those of you who have children who want to come home every weekend, maybe you're close enough where the child can come home every weekend, we suggest that you encourage them to stay on campus for some weekends, especially in the beginning. This is a time when students are reaching out and developing relationships in the beginning of the school year. And at some point, it really is important for them to learn how to get through that homesickness and give themselves an opportunity to start to make connections at college. So this can help for you to just encourage them that it takes time and emphasize that they can get through this difficult time and that it won't be this way forever. So being available for emotional support, remember that they often want to just vent and get it out, get out their frustrations, and they just want to feel heard and understood. So just saying to them, gosh, I know this sounds really hard. Sometimes that's just what they want to hear. Sometimes it can help to even ask them, what would you like right now? Would you like me to provide some advice, or would you rather that I just kind of be here and listen and be a support for you? And even with advice giving, if they do want your advice, maybe before jumping in to provide that advice, perhaps ask them, well, what are your thoughts about how to approach this problem? Really assist them in that problem solving, not just jumping to solve it straight for them. And really encourage them, affirm them, tell them that you believe in their ability to work this out. All right, next slide. The number one reason that students give us for not wanting to tell their parents that they're struggling, they don't want you to worry. So when you talk to them, if you can stay calm, you may find that they're going to tell you more. I've had some parents get really upset because their student is venting and they think everything's horrible when really their student is off at Taco Bell with their friends and having a good time. But they just want that parent sometimes, someone to be a witness, someone to hear them, somebody to validate that this is hard, and allow them to be a resourceful and creative problem solver, and that's going to really help develop foster their development as a capable young adult. All right, next slide.
Well, piggybacking on this idea, perhaps, of encouraging your student to stay on campus sometimes, the other way that parents can help is by encouraging their student to find ways to connect to the campus community. We find that students who are involved with campus clubs and organizations do tend to have more of a sense of purpose, engagement, as well as a stronger network of friends. There are so many clubs on campus. There really is actually just a club for everyone. If you go to the UCSD Center for Student Involvement page, that's the UCSD Center for Student Involvement, you'll find a list of over 700 student organizations on campus. So truly, there's something for everyone here. And that can help provide some structure and some similarity for people to help establish connections with each other. Parents can also help by encouraging your student to trust themselves. When families communicate that they trust their student, it helps the student trust themselves and feel more confident making those independent decisions and taking on new challenges. When students make mistakes, support them by trusting them to recover and learn from that mistake. Most of the time they self-correct pretty quickly. For example, fall quarter, we see students come in panicked about their grades and realizing for themselves the changes that they need to make in order to see improvement next quarter. Maybe realizing that they kind of can't stay up all night playing video games and then pass their midterms. Or they come to, I know, right? They come to us seeking strategies to address procrastination, right? And really, if we're being honest with ourselves, when we look back on our own life, I think a lot of the times it's during those difficult times that we have learned and grown the most. So giving your student that chance too. Next slide. It's also helpful to remember that every student really is different. We see such a wide range of maturity levels among college first years, and that's okay. Everyone develops and progresses at a different rate. Some students need additional time or support to adjust to university life, while others don't really seem to have much difficulty adjusting. And remember, this is a time of adjustment for you too. Take care of yourself. Consider engaging or re-engaging in personal hobbies or interests that maybe have been neglected due to parenting demands. Instead of thinking of this time as having an empty nest, maybe thinking of this time as being a free bird. You and your student are both starting new chapters in your lives, both independently and together. Next slide.
All right, here's some other helpful tips. You may consider writing them a letter about your hopes and dreams for them as they start college. I mentioned that earlier. One parent wrote their child 2 letters, and he sealed them in an envelope. And on one envelope, it said, "Open when you go through a difficult time." And in that letter, he reminded them to have compassion for themselves and encourage them that they have the strength to get through difficult times. And then the other letter on the outside said, "Open when they have a success." And when they opened it up, the letter talked about, remembering to be humble and to have gratitude for their success and for those who have helped to support them along the way. So I thought that was really cute. Or you may consider making a video or making an audio of your voice with your dreams or wishes. My grandmother is the one and only voice of Wilma Flintstone from the Flintstones cartoon. And, I still will hear her voice if I hear, on the Cartoon Network, her voice. And that's something that's really special now that she's passed. And so maybe this letter or video clip of you sharing your dreams, maybe they'll roll their eyes and this is not something they're interested in right now, but maybe later in life it's something that they might really appreciate having. Reminding them that your love is not based on your performance. That might seem kind of obvious, but they don't always know that. So reminding them that your love is not based on their performance. You may consider sending cards or care packages. Getting physical cards in the mail. It doesn't happen all of the time. Maybe sending in there a $5 gift card to Jamba Juice or Starbucks coffee, something that they can treat themselves. Or if you have certain treats that they can't get here in San Diego, my mom used to pack me homemade chocolate chip cookies. And so, maybe sending something and sending them enough to share with their friends would be fun. The other suggestion is don't remodel their room too soon. So I came home and my room was a craft room. So I know that you might be excited about that idea of an open room, but maybe hold off a little bit so that they feel like they've got, a home base, a place to come back to for at least a little while. And remember that they have learned a lot from you in these past 18 years or so. And those lessons and values will not disappear overnight. Anything that you say to them now is not going to make that much of a difference. And so, trust yourself that you've done your job as a parent and that they will carry with them the lessons and values they've learned growing up. So we understand that it's difficult to let go, but it's about trusting yourself and trusting them. Okay, next slide.
So here on this slide, we have 4 different books. You might want to check them out for some additional support and advice. There's also an Instagram account called Grown and Flown, which has some helpful advice and funny posts about being a support person for a college student. And we're also going to post a link to the Parents and Family Programs webpage. They offer tips for the month. And this month, they offer some helpful conversation starters. So maybe consider taking a screenshot here or jotting down in your phone the names of some of these books if you're interested in learning more resources. And the name of that Instagram account, again, is Grown and Flown. Next page here. And again here, we want to just direct you back to 2 really key resources. The first is our website, and the second is our phone number. You can also Google UCSD CAPS, and we will be the first page that pops up, right? On that website, we're going to have a lot of different resources about our quarterly offerings, all the things we talked about today, and we hope that you'll check it out to learn more about those resources. We update it each quarter. We're constantly growing with new workshops, forums, and groups. So save this information. Next slide.
Thank you so much for being with us today. It's been our pleasure speaking with you tonight, and we wish you the best as you go through this exciting new chapter of life. And we also can stay for some questions if folks have questions.
Let's see here.
All right, so we have one question. When can a parent reach out to you related to a student's well-being? Is it after the move-in day, or can we start that interaction with you now and onwards? So I can answer this. So I think that you can call it any time. You know, if your student is a student, they're going to be moving in and you would already like to consult about their well-being, it's fine to call that number. Just identify yourself as a parent of an incoming student that you'd like to be able to consult about the well-being of your student. We won't be able to start meeting with that student until they start being a student when fall quarter starts, but we would at least be able to help get you connected with some resources such as the college dean and other resources on campus that might be helpful for your students. So you're welcome to call at any time. Oops. And then, Allie, I don't know if you want to take a look there and answer. Yeah. Do you see the questions?
Oh, I see on the side. Okay, yes. What should students do if they have friends who would benefit from support? This is a great and classic question, right? What do we do when we have someone we care about who would benefit from support? Well, we always encourage students to do the supportive listening that they often comes naturally to them in friendships, and to encourage that friend to reach out for maybe some professional help through our program, through CAPS, or through any resource that that friend is willing to use on campus, whether it's an RA or a dean, anyone who that friend feels comfortable speaking to and is willing to reach out to. So yeah, and the same way that you can call us to receive information or to provide information about your student, other folks can also call us to provide their concerns about someone. And similarly to what we said before, we can't release information to that person unless the student in question has signed a release of information form, but we can help direct that student, the supporter, in the right direction towards getting their friend some help.
All right, I can answer the one about the UCSD Center for Mindfulness. That's a wonderful program, the UCSD Center for Mindfulness. So are those classes available for students? Yes, they do have some free resources for students. And I know they actually have a lot on their website that's pre-recorded that is available, meditations for students to use. But not all of their services are free for students. I would suggest checking out the UCSD Center for Mindfulness website to see what is available, what are free resources, and what are things that are not free that there might be a charge for. And then also want to point you again to those RISE workshops with CAPS, because anything through CAPS is free for students. That's because students already paid for our services through their student services fee. And so, like, for example, we've got a sunrise session yoga class every Monday of the quarter, and we have mindfulness studio, which is every Wednesday. And the therapist who runs the mindfulness studio actually was trained through the UCSD Center for Mindfulness. And so there's some really wonderful resources, and interestingly, even recreation. recreation on campus also offers a variety of yoga and meditation type of classes. So some really great resources out there.
Let's see here. And my student has decided to start during the summer session. Can he reach out for support during the summer if he is a first-year student? We always encourage students to go ahead and reach out to us. And it can get kind of complicated depending on what program they're participating in, sort of when their eligibility for individual counseling starts, but reaching out to us is the first step towards understanding what that timeline is for the student, because it does vary based on the specific program. So I would encourage him to reach out if he's in need of support.
All right, we have another question about what are some of the challenges for transfer students. So for transfer students, we often find that they have some of the same challenges as some of our first year incoming first year students. And so it's just adjusting. It's just adjusting to a new environment. The UC, well, not all UCs, but UC San Diego is on the quarter system, which is 10 weeks and then finals week. And that moves very quickly. So a lot of transfer students aren't used to that, and transfer students may also not be used to like the very large lecture sizes. And it's just kind of a matter of adjusting, similar to a first year. I think that for both incoming first years and transfer students, I think that one of the most important things is getting socially connected. We find that students who join a student org tend to do better as a first year and also a transfer student. And that may be a variety of reasons. One may be just increased social support, more balance in their life, but also maybe study buddies, people to study with and kind of set those norms. There may be lots of reasons for that. We also have programming specific to transfer students. And we have a therapist, Haley Wright, on our staff who is the transfer student liaison, who really does know a lot about the transfer student challenges. And when your student goes to make an appointment at CAPS, they can look at our staff page and look at all the different specialty areas. Ali and I mentioned some of our specialty areas today. Every staff has their specialty areas, and Haley happens to specialize in seeing transfer students with transfer student issues. And so those are some recommendations that I would have.
Let's see, and we have a question here from a supporter who's not going to be able to accompany their child to UCSD and is wondering how the student can connect with us and be able to have support from us. And that's a great question. And I imagine that feels really hard to not be able to accompany your child. I'd say making especially sure that you have provided your child with our contact information, right? All of the students will be receiving a kind of similar presentation to this, not necessarily about the parent and family dynamic here, but more focused on what services we offer. Students receive that as part of their orientation. So they'll get some of this information, but again, just underscoring how impactful it is when loved ones really validate and set the norm that it's okay to ask for help. So really, supporting and providing your student with our contact information to help get connected to us.
One parent asks, what is the best thing to say to your child when they call you and are very homesick? Okay. I was one of those kids. I was never the independent kid. I was always the one that was homesick. I was always the one. I mean, even from a very young age, it was hard for me to spend the night over at somebody else's house. I remember one time in the middle of the night calling my mom, come get me, So I relate to that homesickness. It can be really hard in the beginning. And I think normalizing that for them, they're going to come to you and just want that affirmation that, it's okay. It's natural to feel this way a lot. You may feel like you're the only one, but you're not. There's lots of people who are struggling and having, trouble with this. This is a transition that is hard for a lot of people. I just want you to know you're not alone with this. And encouraging them, like I said, not to come home every week, let them come home sometimes, but to really encourage them to stay because they want to get their foot in the door while everybody's making those connections at the beginning, and encouraging them to, as hard as it might be, get involved with, going to a student org meeting. There's going to be lots of college events going on. So attending college events during the beginning of the school year, and really, encouraging their strengths, that that they're going to get through this, that that they're going to be okay, and that sometimes it just takes time, and it really does. The other thing is that I would say encouraging them to make an appointment at CAPS, because you're not going to be there every day. And CAPS, they can get a therapist, they can get someone they can talk to that can help them through this process. Going to some of our workshops and some of our support spaces that we have can be incredibly helpful for students who are experiencing the same thing. Sometimes if we get a group of students who are feeling homesick, we could even provide a support space for those students who are feeling homesick. But the thing that I notice is that over time, it really does improve. I've had students, especially students that might be coming from out of state or international students, who they are not close to friends and family. They can't go home on the weekends. Sometimes that is a hard transition, especially if you're not from Southern California. I've had students say, what happened to the seasons? Why aren't there any seasons? And it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like home. And so sometimes that can be a hard transition for them. But again, getting involved, even if they have trouble with like going to student orgs, if they get involved in something academic, they become a peer educator, things like that, where they share a certain purpose with other students and they're working towards something. And if they struggle with that, having them come to CAPS. I run a building social confidence group, and sometimes students meet other students who struggle socially through the building social confidence group. So there's lots of resources for students, but just encourage them to hang in there. It's tough, but they're good. They have the strength to get through this, and they will. It does get better.
And it seems like sort of the flip side of that question is a question about for students who are really wanting to be independent and maybe feel like they know what's going on, they don't need help. Any advice on how to encourage them to use the university's resources? Does the school directly go over this with students during their onboarding? Yes, we do. And, it can be hard when students are not really wanting to they're not wanting to do problem solving. They're wanting maybe to just vent, or they're not open to hearing about other resources. And I think the best thing you can do in that moment is continue to be able to hold space for that, and be able to hold space for the fact that they're going to try their best, and they're going to make mistakes. They're going to try new things. And maybe that's their way of learning, right? Is trying new things, seeing what works, and being okay with maybe missing some steps along the way and learning from that, right? Sorry, Tiffany, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I relate to this too.
Yeah.
The student that knows everything and they roll their eyes when you talk. I said to my daughter, I've got you to roll your eyes another time. Yes.
Yes.
How often does this happen, right?
Totally.
Yeah, go ahead, Ellen.
Yeah. And even when your student rolls their eyes, they're still receiving that information in the back, right? Like the outward display might be that they're rolling their eyes, but it is really true that like you offering the gentle reminder that there are resources on campus for whatever problem they're facing, right? The outward display might be an eye roll, but they're still receiving that information. So it never hurts still to give them that reminder. Hey, you don't have to be in this alone.
And sometimes you're planting seeds that take a while to grow. So this quarter, maybe they're not going to listen to you. They're not going to go to the counseling center. But then maybe the next quarter, when they're still struggling academically, or they're still struggling to make friends, okay, I remember that, mom or dad said this. I think that I will, try this out. So sometimes you're planting seeds. They might not, or you can phrase it like, you may consider doing this. You may find this helpful, kind of gently suggesting in that language. Okay, let me see. I'm looking at these other questions here. Okay, when can a student connect with a counselor for academic reasons as a transfer student. So, so we at our office offer counseling and psychological services, and then there's also academic advising that's offered through both the colleges and also their department for their major. I am not certain about when they can connect to academic advising, but I assume that you can reach out to either the college or the academic department and ask about when those services are available. My guess is that they'd be available to consult even now, especially if there's questions about classes. And then CAP services, as we start to approach September, students will be able to call and schedule an appointment for late September when actually they're eligible to start services. So they can schedule those appointments around early September to start when the classes start late September. Yeah. All right, Allie, I'm looking, I see one more question.
Yes.
A student wants to come home after 3 weeks for a family event that's happening, and he will either come home or the parent will visit the child the following weekend for Parents' Weekend. And that's tricky because I understand this. You can only afford one flight. So what would you recommend? I mean, that's a tough call. And I think it's really only something that your family every family has to decide for themselves. I'll just share my own experience. We decided to have our child come home for an important family event. And we did not go up for Parents' Weekend, but we actually consulted with the child. What's more important? What was more important to our son? Did he want to come home or did he want us to go there? And he's like, I don't want you to come. He's like, I'm fine. You don't need to come. Because we already went we went with him on the college tour. We moved him in. We were helping we already went to the campus. And so that was our son's and our decision, but every family is different. And I know, I mean, it's an incredible family weekend that's planned. So, I think every family has to make that decision. Allie, would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a great maybe opportunity to also communicate that you trust your students' ability to know what feels right for them and to articulate what feels right for them by including them in the conversation, right? Because there isn't a wrong or right answer for this one. So helping foster that collaborative independence, right? By starting the conversation with them and getting their perspective on what feels right for them. And knowing that we're going to have family weekend every year, right? So this isn't the last opportunity for family weekend.
Parent and family weekend is amazing. Family weekend is amazing. So if you can make it, if you can't make it this time, maybe making it next time. Yeah. That's a great. Yeah. Well, we got another question. Is it move-in day or move-in weekend? Ooh, that I don't know. I think you're going to have to consult with the college for the move-in. I know that it's Triton weeks of welcome. It used to be welcome week, but now it's weeks because they have events going on for weeks. And so that I think you're going to need to consult with the res life staff, at the college.
You can also reach out to parents at ucsd.edu with questions about that.
Ooh, when is family weekend is another. It is Friday, October 17th and Saturday, October 18th. I know that by heart. Margot is behind the scenes. Margot, are you so proud of me?
Yeah.
Friday, October 17th and Saturday, October 18th, we're going to be having open houses of a variety of departments on campus and resources on campus. There's going to be a resource fair. There's different events that are going to be happening. It's a great place. I mean, UC San Diego is amazing. It truly is. My daughter is a sophomore. And my daughter is a junior this year. So we're going to be touring colleges. And I'm actually going to go on a college tour of UC San Diego.
Oh, how fun.
I'm really excited about the thought of her being a Triton. So congratulations to you. I mean, this is truly an amazing school and really wonderful resources for parents and families. I mean, I've worked at other campuses and this is really stellar. Excellent. So thank you so much for your time and for being here.
Thank you all so much.